What's up, fitnessers? This is head coach Mike from Crossfit Putney, and today we are talking about the clean and jerk. A few tips to make your clean and jerk more efficient, which is going to make the way you lift better and allow you to lift more weight in the long run. Firstly, it's important to know that improving our weightlifting is a process. Whilst we can pick up on quick cues and techniques which can make changes quite immediately, generally it's a longer term process as we're improving our technique. So we need to gradually ingrain it over time. So all of the things that we learned today, whilst they might help us quite quickly, it does take time and effort to consistently see that change over time. We're going to cover a few common basic errors and talk about how to address them. The first one we talk about is in the clean, is not utilizing the legs very effectively and not understanding the balance point in the feet. What a lot of people do is they'll traditionally deadlift their clean, so their hips will be too high and they'll be using too much of their back. So their starting position looks something like this. We want to think about more of a squat position where the shoulders are covering the knees. So just here, whereas I don't want the shoulders to be over the knees and I don't want them to be behind the knees. Just slightly covering so I can start to utilize my legs more effectively. And then whilst we're in that squat position, for our setup, we need to make sure we maintain that and push through the middle of our feet as we stand up. At no point do we want to rock onto our heels, and we also don't want to spend time on our toes. And once we can learn to start using those legs, we want to think about how we can feel them and the balance in the middle of the feet through the pull. Essentially, we're performing a jump type motion, but from the bottom position. So as I start to push from the ground, I want to think about pushing with my legs and keeping my arms relaxed and the bar close to my legs as I do so. I don't want to pull with my arms or open with my back at any point, especially at the bottom. I just want to think about pushing. So an easy way to rectify what this is like is start from a regular jump position, wherever you would jump most comfortably, and then gradually take it lower and lower, and that's going to be the base for your clean to be effective using your legs. So I might start an original jump just from here, and then I'm gradually going to take it lower and think about using those legs. And as I go down into that squat, I'm thinking about jumping immediately. And then I want to perform the same movement for my clean. When I'm doing that jump, what I don't want to do is this. That's not going to be a very effective way to jump. We want to be continually putting force into the ground for as long as possible. So, to put that into my clean, I'm going to use my legs. I'm going to talk about a very common mistake is overusing the arms in our cleans. What we don't want to do is over pull, creating like a high pull motion. If we send that barbell above the height of the shoulders, it's going to come crashing down on us. Now when it's light, it might be fine, but as it gets heavier and closer to our max, any distance that that barbell gets between above our shoulder and the shoulder itself, it's going to have time to crash down, and that's where we're going to get pinned, and we're going to need to be heavier, we're going to need to be stronger than the weight that we're actually lifting. So from there, we want to think about only getting that barbell roughly towards our belly button. So just this tiny little pull with the elbows in front of the bar. We don't want to be doing this type motion where that barbell is going to crash on us. We want to think about barely getting it to here, and then we're starting to pull under. So if I over pull, it looks like that. And then if I have a short pull, it looks like that. So the next thing we'll talk about is the split jerk. Again, very similar things, is not utilizing the legs very effectively and overuse of the arms. Whilst instinctively it comes easy for us to try and use the arms to take it overhead, our arms are so much weaker than our legs, and they really just stabilize us when that weight gets overhead. So once we finish using our legs to throw the weight up, the arms aren't doing anything, and they're just to lock that weight out, and that's the stabilizing part. That's the role that the arms play in taking that bar overhead. We're never actually pressing it up. We are pressing ourselves down but we're never trying to use the arms to take all of that weight overhead. So that comes from our dip portion. So very similar to using the legs in the start of the clean. We want to make sure that the feet are flat, so the balance is correct. We're never too far in the heels or too far in the toes. Whilst a lot of people will teach to keep the weight in the heels, somewhere between middle of the foot and heels is going to be effective, but never too much. So as we dip and stand, we just want to think about feeling those legs being used. Often, when we first start learning, we might need to dip slightly deeper to allow us to feel those legs. And then as we get a little bit further into our weightlifting, we can bring that dip a little bit shorter. But it's important we never rush down. We don't want to beat the barbell down. We want to feel the weight of the barbell on the legs, and the legs are what's taking that weight overhead. So the last thing we're talking about now for our split jerk is the position of the feet. So ideally, the position is going to be the same length as a regular lunge, but it's going to be slightly wider. So if I come down, I'm going to take my strong leg first in front. And so this would be my regular lunge position. I'm going to go just a bit wider, maybe 3 to 4 inches. And this is going to give me more stability. If I'm too narrow, I'm going to be all over the place with that weight overhead. So I'm going to take it a bit wider than I usually would. I'm going to dig my toes into the ground, and I'm going to look for roughly 90 degrees between this knee, this hip angle, and my back knee as well. From there, I can stand myself up until the front shin is vertical, the back knee is bent, and my back heel is just turned out slightly. This is going to be our catch position. Every time we want to make sure we get back into this position. And if we ever catch ourselves, we're slightly narrow or we're off, we can just adjust as needed. If we're ever unsure with that barbell overhead or in the front rack, we can practice once we receive it, checking that we're in the correct position, and then coming up and just holding here before resetting again. So that might look like this. So I know if I go into a lunge, I go a bit wider, and then I come up. This is the position that I want to land in. So if I perform one of my jerks, I should be able to check it's exactly the same position, and then I can recover. Thanks for joining me on my talk about clean and jerks today. Hopefully you can start implementing some of this into your training, and you can start to see those clean and jerk numbers going up. This is Head Coach Mike from CrossFit Putney. I'll see you again soon.